Community Motors West Side, the GM Superstore next to Cinema West. Community Motors of Mason City, we give you more.
Conditional use permits. Item 5.1, immediately east of Golden Grain Energy on 43rd Street Southwest. Joseph D. Yavorski, conditional use permit pursuant to Chapter 12-14-3 of the zoning ordinance to allow the establishment and operation of a waste transfer form function in the Z6-0 Open Industrial Zoning District. Postponed from the 11/1/2001 ZBA meeting.
My response is that of the Board of Health and the Department of Public Health. It's pretty self-explanatory. It provides you with our standpoints and things relevant to this situation. I guess I would just like to say that clearly this issue is not a cut and dry issue. I've researched this like I'm sure you all have, like I'm sure everyone behind me has. And no one's really gotten to the bottom of this per se with a full facility, and so it's difficult to provide concrete information relevant to a standing structure, a facility that's operating. The thing I would really want to stress here is that the Sarasota County Department of Public Health, is no secret that we've been looking into establishing an ambient outdoor air quality program, and as you understand, outdoor air quality is not an easy environmental program to be able to administer, and I hope over the coming months or even years we start to consider how we want to handle this locally. My biggest concern over the last series of months as this discussion's gone on is the fact that there's a lot of ifs about who's going to provide adequate oversight, and I say this, and I have said this in the presence of the Department of Natural Resources and the Air Quality Bureau, in the sense that they are an agency that has been reduced over the last several years, not only in capacity as far as staffing goes, but also in the sense of limited revenues and funding streams. I've attended a couple of Title V permit fee discussions where they're trying to increase their per tonnage fees, and they haven't been able to get those increased. So what that does is it ties the hands of the Department of Natural Resources to try to respond to situations like this. Don't be too complacent with the fact that DNR is going to provide full and complete oversight of this facility or any other facility that might be operating or proposing building. They can only do so much, and so we at the Department of Public Health have strategized for literally almost 10 years now on how we can initiate a local outdoor air quality program, so that when situations like this come up, we have a local reference versus a state reference. So with that, I'm open to any questions that you might have about our letter. Otherwise, it pretty much stands for itself.
Brian, do any other facilities in Mason City have or have used continuous monitoring devices, or currently should be using continuous monitoring devices, so people like yourself at the DNR can get more prompt information than they normally would if something were to exceed a limit?
I think the continuous emissions monitoring system makes a lot of sense, as long as, number one, the facility's watching it, and if there are any issues, the Department of Natural Resources is notified, and then they can appropriately respond. I don't know if other facilities in this city have it. Again, this comes back to my initial statement in the sense that the Department of Public Health here locally does not have an air quality program in place. It is one that we would like to get in place. And the initiation of that program would include ambient air monitoring. I know that issue came up at the last meeting, and I didn't get a chance to clarify for you, but it is a goal of ours to initiate an ambient air monitoring program, not to specifically focus on a single business, but to focus on the community as a whole, meaning not just Mason City, the whole county. And so what I'm hoping over the next several months or years, we can start to have some dialogue on how we can provide better resources to business and more information to our public at a local level.
At a study, it's our understanding that that's what that is.
Yeah, you know, I looked through this, I just got it today. I mean, this is a
So you
document.
hadn't seen that before you wrote this
No.
letter? I see, okay.
So this, I called Brent today because he referenced it in the paper, and I hadn't seen a copy of this, didn't know that this existed. You know, I've only had limited time to look through this document, but I mean, it was conducted by the Department of Energy, but that doesn't mean that I still don't have some issues with what's presented in here, in the sense that, and I don't know how close you want me to go over this, but, you know, in our letter, we reference, and I should point out, I have consulted, and Stu and I have talked briefly about what makes sense for this project, and so our recommendations under question number 1, as far as testing the waste under a similar burning situation, to determine what kind of toxins may be produced from that, makes sense, as then it leads into modeling, which clearly was done here. And, you know, they followed appropriate information, but a lot of what comes back to is who's providing compliance oversight. It's the same situation here in Iowa, you know, it's all based on their natural resources ensuring that compliance is met, and it's difficult to say that they're doing an adequate job of providing that oversight, but I mean, I guess they you gotta start somewhere, is what I'm saying.
You did mention too the waste testing and our understanding that that'll be done also. The waste here will be pelletized, taken to California, run through the system. That's kind of what you're referring to in that question, right?
Well, I mean, this study basically they're saying that they did that, that they've done some test burns of the material, and then that they basically modeled it. I guess some of the, again, I apologize, I haven't looked through this a great deal, but specifically they say based on testing conducted by Oneida, so this is the company that's doing tests, that's providing information for their modeling. So again, I see a little bit of a conflict there, that the company provides that information for the permit, for the modeling scenario to be run through the processes. Anyway, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not. Basically what it boils down to is I haven't had a lot of time to look at this. You probably all have, but I got it today. Reviewing just a little bit of what's in here, I still stand behind what's listed in this letter. I think it's still applicable. I think it makes sense to test the waste under similar burning conditions, if at all possible, and then run it through appropriate modeling to determine who might be impacted and what environmental impacts may be made here.
I think what George
Just want to start out by thanking you for your time and energy and efforts on this application. We appreciate the meetings that you've held, the time that you put in, the research that you've done. We also want to extend that thanks to the city staff. Ms. Myrie and Ms. Sandel have done an excellent job gathering the information, providing you with information, and drafting these now 30 conditions. Consistently, you have seen that there are 5 criteria to evaluate our application. And as we stand here tonight, we can say with confidence that this is an application for a conditional use permit, that by ordinance, the proposed site is properly zoned, that the applicant's purpose is appropriate for this site under the zoning ordinances. And just to remind you, those zoning ordinances were just redone and enacted and put in force July 1, 2010 by the city of Kingston City. You have before you 30 conditions, which a lot of those conditions were developed from what the applicant has stated to you in the public meetings and at the public forum. So they were written by staff A lot of them are based upon what the applicant has said that the applicant will do. And we're here to say that we are going to do what we say we're gonna do. That's why we have no objection to the 30 conditions that you set forth tonight. We've made many presentations, we've provided you with a lot of written documentation, we've given you assurances verbally, and we've also given you those assurances by nodding our heads tonight as we sit here and go through the conditions and have the additional 2 conditions added. You have the facts, you have the science, you have gentlemen from the public health field. If I understood Mr. Schmitz correctly, what he said to you is that the EPA standards are based on public health considerations, and that he has studied those EPA regulations, and that if we meet those EPA regulations, public health is protected. I don't want to misquote you, but that is what he said here tonight. If we meet the EPA regulations, then we are protecting, there is no concerns for public health. And that is a condition of our operation, is that we meet those EPA conditions. The 5 criteria have been met. We urge you to approve this application for conditional use permit. We are in favor of, we are in support of, we are in agreement with all 30 conditions. Ask yourselves as you're making your decision, it's not just these 2 gentlemen, but there are people standing behind him with $35 million. There's lenders, there's insurers, there's investors who are standing behind them. And it's a significant amount of money. And they're not gonna put their money on the line without being confident in what these gentlemen are proposing to you tonight. Mr. Schmidt said it himself, the EPA has set the standards to which we must comply. We are agreeing to comply with those standards. The public health is protected. Base your decision tonight, please, on the facts presented, on the conditions that have been designed and written by staff with our input via our comments of what we've said we would do, with your input tonight as well, with the input of the Iowa Department of Public Health, the Saragordo County Department of Public Health. Base your decision on those conditions, on the fact that we've met the 5 criteria, on the facts and the science that we've given you. Please do not base your decision on fear. Please do not shut the gates to Mason City. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adopt the staff report as the board's findings and approve the application by Joseph D. Yavarski for conditional use permit pursuant to Chapter 12-14-3 of the zoning ordinance to allow establishment and operation of a waste transport form/function in the Z6 open industrial zoning district. The 30 conditions shall be placed. The approval is subject to the 30 conditions recommended by staff. Do I need to read 29 and 30, or is that going to be included in there?
I think we read all 30 of them. We'll include 29 and 30.
Thank you, Jeremy. Number 3, though, we added that the city shall provide a list of qualified third-party consultants.
Yes.
Would that be added to number 3? So this approval is subject to all 30 conditions by staff, or as modified by the Board of Adjustment. And let's see here. And further, that the grant of the application be made effectively subject to all other applicable local, state, and federal laws and regulations.
Can I make the resolution? The language going back to the resolution? As staff proposed. It's part of the motion
So to what?
to come back on January 3rd.
Oh.
Approve a written
Oh, okay.
resolution.
And then also come back on January 3rd to approve a written resolution.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Donna, please call the roll.
Peters,
Yes.
Jessen,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Mathis,
Yes.
Gutsko.
Yes.
Motion passes.